Today we will start the cell structure and multiplication. Cell structure and multiplication, especially in the animal cells are concerned, not the plant cells or any other cells. So the animal cell structure and multiplication is a different process in which the cell divides several times and the cellular materials are shared in between the different cells, and at the same time the multiplication of the different intracellular organelles will happen. So, in view of this thing, this become very important. Hence, the animal cells do have a different structure when compared to that of the plant cells. So, plant cells have got the cell wall, whereas the animal cells do not, and they have got the cell membrane. The outer layer of the cell that controls the movement of the substances in and out. It is called as the cell membrane. Instead of the cell wall, they have got the cell membrane. Most of the animal cells do have got the cell membrane, and apart from this one, they will also have many other structures like the nucleus. So, nucleus is the one which contains the genetic material and controls activities like growth, the metabolism of every cell, then the reproduction, especially the transmission of genetic material from the parents to the offspring. So this is a important action which is always uh, intended by most of the animal cells. Then the cytoplasm of a cell is a jelly-like substance that fills the cell containing all organelles and being the site for most cellular activities. So cytoplasm is just like the intracellular content of a cell in which so many substances are floating. Then the genetic material is also floating, whereas the mitochondria is known as the powerhouse of the cell, and it generates the energy, especially in the form of the adenosine triphosphate or the ATP through cellular respiration. Then the another thing is the endoplasmic reticulum, or it's also called as EPR or ER. So it is also divided into rough endoplasmic reticulum involved in protein synthesis in the body, and also the SER or smooth endoplasmic reticulum, which is involved in lipid synthesis and also the detoxification of the many commonly occurring chemicals. Then the ribosomes are the very basic structures. They are called as the powerhouse of the protein synthesis and found in the cytoplasm or attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So these are the protein synthesis houses. Then Golgi apparatus is a process of the packages and distributes the proteins, the lipids produced in the cell. So they have also got the different cells. Whereas the lysosomes do contain digestive enzymes that break down waste material and cellular debris. So these lysosomes, as the name indicate, lys means to dissolve. So these substances are the one which always do contain the digestive enzymes, means digestive enzymes of the cell, nothing to do with the gastrointestinal tract. Then centrioles are the central part of the nucleolus, then node in cell division and help in formation of spindle fibers. In the formation of spindle fibers that separate chromosomes during the mitosis phase. Then coming to the animal cell multiplication, lot of stages are there, and everyone know how an animal cell or the plant cell always grow, and we will have the very basic things here. Very firstly we will look into the mitosis. So this is a process of the cell division to produce two identical daughter cells. Two identical daughter cells, and it has several phases like prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. So these are the four phases. Then cytokinesis means it is the final step of the cell division where the cytoplasm divides into two separate cells which are formed. It is called as the cytokinesis. Then this is the structure of a animal cells and animal cells. So we can see here the center parts will contain the nucleus, and the other part is also called as the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the outer coat, which is denoted here, pointing out here the smooth endoplasmic reticulum, whereas the manifold substances are known as the rough endoplasmic reticulum, as it contains the ribosomes are intra endoplasmic reticulum substances, whereas the structures which are pointed out here are called as the Golgi apparatus. So these are also involved in the protein synthesis, whereas the outer coat is called as the plasma membrane, and apart from this one, the powerhouse of the cells are the mitochondria. Several mitochondria are here. Then the nucleolus is inside the nucleus of a cell and helps in the cell division. Then cytoskeleton is the microtubules. These are small filamentous like materials are called as the microtubules. Then the intermediate filaments are the small filament like substances. Then too much small substances are called as the microfilaments. Then the small bodies which are looking light greenish yellow in color are called as the peroxisomes. Peroxisomes. Then the another thing which is present inside the cell, which is responsible for the cell division, is called as the centriole, and the lysosomes are always present everywhere inside the cell, and they are responsible for secretion of the enzymes which are required for the cell lysis. Then some cells do contain the flagellum, or it is an invaginated tail-like substance which is extended outside, and sometimes it is also required for bacterial cell, etc., for free movement. And the ribosomes are the dot-like materials which are adhering to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So these are the basic structure of any animal cell. Of course, there is a small variation here and there. Always it will be present. Whereas the other structures inside the cell, and cell is defined as the smallest structural, functional, and biological unit of living organism. So there are varieties of the cells, and it is the most basic functional unit of the body of any mammal or organism, or also some plants, most of the plants. And this is capable of having the biosynthesis, replication, and energy transformation. So anybody or any body do contain crores of these cells, and they are building blocks of the life. All the cells are the building blocks of the life. Then these are the structures which study the cell is called as the cytology. It is the scientific study of cellular structure and function. Then organisms can classified as the unicellular, means consisting of a single cell, including the bacteria. So they are unicellular or multicellular. For example, multicellular, almost all the plants and animals do have the multicellular. While the number of the cells in plants and animals vary from one species to another species always. So the here one statistics you should remember that human cells do contain dash number of the cells means 100 trillion cells means 10 raised to the power 14. How many cells? The human body do contain 10 raised to the power 14 or 100 trillion cells. So every day some billion cells are being washed away from the human body and new cells are being generated. So this is the beauty of the body. So all cells they arise from existing by the process of cell division. Every cell has to divide just after the formation of the gamete in which the X and Y chromosomes are going to meet and a new cell started proliferating. Hence, this is very important for the growth and multiplication of an animal into a identical cells and formation of the genetically predetermined structure. Then different types of the cells fulfill unique roles that support homeostasis and contribute to the many functional capabilities of the human organism. Then the other thing what we can see here are the most plant cell are visible or the animals are under the microscope only. We cannot see the cells with the naked eye and with dimensions between 1 to 100 micrometer. So they are very tiny structures and animal cell contains the membrane bound nucleus, animal cells, and also contain other membrane bound cellular organelles. So these cellular organelles carry out a specific functions that are necessary for the normal functioning of a cell. So usually the animal cell structures are adhering to the outer membrane of the cells and do lot of things which are required to the body. So here is a animal cell. Usually the structures are adhering very near to that of the cell membrane. So sometimes the cilia is also there, especially some of the animal cells. But the free flowing animal cells only do contain the cilia and flagella. Whereas all other do cells contain the mycytoplasm. Cytoplasm is a jelly-like substance which is containing all the intracellular organelles like the mitochondria, a powerhouse of the cell, and some filaments are there, and ribosomes are the one which is very much required for the protein synthesis, rough endoplasmic reticulum, then the nucleus is the controlling center of the body, whereas the Golgi complex is also involved in the protein synthesis, and the microtubules are the one which are required for the cell to have multiple functions. Whereas the microfilaments are the green stained substances which are very much required for the cell synthesis, division, and also the lysosomes are the one which do contain enzymes that is required for the lysis of the same cells or other cells. And SER or smooth endoplasmic reticulum and there are rough endoplasmic reticulum. Both are present, whereas the some secretory vesicles are also there which may contain the neurotransmitters, etc. So the blue structures are also called as the peroxisomes. Then centrioles are very much required for the cell division. So the centrioles they also adhere to the spindle fibers, etc., then during the cell division, they are very much required. And we have seen all these things whenever we are seeing the cell of a amoeba. Then plasma membrane of a cell, it is the biological membrane that the surrounds the cytoplasm of a cell. In short, it is the outer boundary of the cell, usually plasma membrane. So why it is called as the plasma membrane? Because it is very thin in structure when compared to the plant cells. Then the elastic structure is in the extent of 7.5 to 10 nanometers in thickness. So it separates the internal environment or inside the cell. There are multicellular organelles like the Golgi complex, endoplasmic reticulum, uh, nucleus, nucleolus, centrioles, and many more substances are present. And the external atmosphere, for example, extracellular fluid. And the plasma membrane is made up of the lipid bilayer, which contains lipid molecules, like they are called as the phospholipids, phospholipids, cholesterol, then also the glycolipids. So they are the building blocks of the cell and protect the cells, plasma membrane. Whereas the here you can see inside the cell cytoplasm there are hydrophobic alpha helix proteins are there, and these are required for carrying any type of the material like glucose, etc., to be transported inside the cell. Then there is another protein known as the glycoprotein. Suppose this is the outside the cell, and apart from this one, lot of receptors will be present on outside the cell. So this is an imaginary structure because this is a phospholipid bilayer. Then apart from this one, the globular proteins will be present on each and every cell, which is also containing the protein channel or the transport channel. So these are the channels which will allow only some specific materials inside and prevent the other thing. Then cholesterol is also the very much required material in the body. The cholesterol will be there and gives strength to the cell, whereas the integral proteins are the one which also support the cell membrane. Then there are different layers in the cell membrane. Number one is the polar, means the water etc. can enter the outside the cell, whereas the non-polar means in between the two layers, the water soluble substances are unable to pass, whereas the fat soluble substance can easily be passed. Then apart from this one, the glycoproteins are there. Then the hydrophobic alpha helix position and different type of the voltage gated ion channels, ligand gated ion channels, and many more things will be present. Then the plasma membrane is called as the semi-permeable membrane. Semi-permeable means that the membrane allows some material to pass inside while excluding the other things. So that is it is called as the semi-permeable. Then lipid soluble substances and gases, for example, the oxygen gas and carbon dioxide, can easily pass through the phospholipid membrane. So this is the phospholipid membrane inside. So they can easily pass through any lipid soluble substance, whereas the water soluble substances it is not so easy. Then the water soluble substance such as glucose and charged molecules such as the ions are unable to pass through the lipid bilayer. So they may require the carrier protein or these hydrophilic molecules and ions must transfer protein within the membranes and to pass into the outside of the cell. So they require a very special carrier proteins which are synthesized by the cell, and they carry such substances, and hence they are going to act. Then two different type of the proteins they are embedded in the cell membrane are the integral proteins and the peripheral proteins. Means outside the cell, that's the membrane. Whereas the transport protein, here you can see, or it's also called as the ion channels nowadays. Transport protein or integral protein or the some type different type of the proteins, transport proteins are there, and they change their configuration as per the requirement of a ligand, then transport inside the cell. So that is another important thing. Then the integral proteins are cell recognizing proteins. For example, a human cell need to be recognized, or the other cells, bacterial cells need to be recognized as foreign when compared to the our own body cells. So this is important group of integral proteins that are capable of cell recognizing proteins, which serve to mark the cell's identity so that it can be recognized by the other cells. So our own cells should not become foreign body to us. Sometimes, whenever there is a viral attack, etc., some of the virus may cause, just like the COVID-19 virus, which enters the lungs and take control over the nucleus and nucleolus and orders it to produce the protein which is required to that particular virus. Then a receptor is a type of recognition protein that can selectively bind to a very specific molecule outside the cell, and this binding induces a chemical reaction or cascade of the events. And then some integral protein, membrane proteins, are also called as the glycoproteins. Glyco means glucose, or else it is having the integral membrane and also glyco plus protein, both glucose and some amino acids, they are combined together, then they are formulated as the glycoprotein containing medicines. Then functions of the cell membrane allow the passage of the different nutrients. Hundreds of nutrients are required to the animal or the human body, and they still synthesize whenever they get the raw materials. Then the plasma membrane also plays a vital role in communication between the cell to cell. So just like us, they can are unable to talk with each other. Hence, they send certain signals, then communicate with the other cells or the counterpart. Then the cytoplasm is the intracellular substance in which all cell organelles are suspended, as known as the cytoplasm, or else it is one of the important substance. Cyto means cell, plasm means the fluid like material, and hence the cytoplasm is a viscous transparent gel-like substance here. Then it is semi-solid fluid containing 75 to 90% water. Then it also contains the proteins, carbohydrates, lipids, organic substances including many amino acids, sugars, polysaccharides, and inorganic substances. So always the animal or the human body do contains 10 raised to the power of 14 cells, and there is always regeneration and also the permanent cell death. So here also a cross section of the nucleus is taken to find the nucleolus also. So the nucleus is generally considered as the control center of a cell because it stores all the genetic instructions for manufacturing of its own, because ultimately the cell is the one which survives always. Then nuclear envelope is also present inside the cell. So this is the rough endoplasmic reticulum. Then the nuclear pores are specially designed for a particular cell. Then chromaffin is the one which gives color to different type of the cell. Here nucleus, then inside the cell there is one nucleolus is there. Then the it is transmitted from one human being or the animal to the other whenever the blood transfusion etc. required, and they want to go to the house also. So nucleus is surrounded by the double membrane called as the nuclear envelope, not like our envelopes, regular office postage expenses. So this envelope contains the lipid bilayers with a thin fluid space called as nuclear pore. So a nuclear pore is a tiny passageway of the passage of the proteins, RNAs, and the solutes between the nucleus and the cytoplasm. So this is happening with many of the Indian people. They are coming to back to the company and telling the same dialogue. Then once again, this is another structure with the DNA helix. So it is consisting of the chromosomes. Entire cell do contain the chromosomes, and we can count it as the different number. So it also contains thymine, adenine, guanine, and cytosol. Then the nucleosome is present, which is ready for the synthesis of new cells, but it is set of job. Then inside the cell there are a lot of materials are present, and one among them is the neoplasm. So chromatin is the one which gives color to the cell, and it is a genetic instructions are being passed from the cell to cell organelles. So EPR or the endoplasmic reticulum is an extensive network of the membrane tubules that extends from the nuclear envelope to the cell membrane. It also provides the passage of theropod, the cell, for transporting, then synthesizing and storing material. So it serves as a mini circulatory system. Then EPR exists in two forms, rough ER and smooth ER. So they have got the different type of the duties. So here you can see that the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So this looks like a aroma outside the sun, etc. So please go through this, and the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is also adhering to the lipid bilayer. Whereas the vesicles, then the Golgi apparatus are also important in a particular cells are concerned. Then difference between rough and smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So you can go through the photo. Then rough ER is dotted with embedded granules called as the ribosomes. So thousands of ribosomes are present in the human body, at the same time the animal body also. But the smooth endoplasmic reticulum does not contain the ribosome, smooth ER, whereas rough ER only do contain the steroidal hormones, sex hormones, digestive enzymes, fatty acids, phospholipids, then triglycerides, etc. And also the another thing is the cholesterol. So in addition, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum also stores and regulates the concentration of the intracellular calcium or the calcium homeostasis is also maintained by the endoplasmic reticulum. So these are specific to the certain companies, and every and everybody is thinking about the same thing. Then smooth endoplasmic reticulum does not contain the ribosomes. It performs the biosynthesis of steroidal hormones. For example, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, etc. We can claim. Then the addition of the smooth ER also regulates the concentration of the cellular. Then additionally metabolizes the some carbohydrates and carry out the function. Then here once again the magnified structure of the ER, rough and smooth ER is being depicted here. They have got the separate ducts etc. Whereas the other cells where they are not near to the droppings, they can assign themselves the job. Whereas now we are going little deep, like here many things are about to be explained. So here number one is the protein synthesized in the ribosomes, then it migrates to the endoplasmic reticulum. So in the tunnel, the proteins proteins packaged in a this membrane sac called as the transport vesicles are there. So here you can see that protein inside transport vehicles. So it is protected, and it cannot be destroyed so fastly. So the transport vesicles buds from rough endoplasmic reticulum and travels the Golgi apparatus for the further process. So this is a continuous process. A ribosome is the site of the protein synthesis, as we have already known, and it can be found free floating in the cytoplasm or attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So it is composed of two ribosomal mRNAs. We are not interested in other thing, whereas the animal cell composed of two ribosomal RNA and subunits that wrap around mRNA to start the process of translation, then the stage of protein synthesis, and so many other things. So the protein synthesis contain two important stages. One is transcription and another one is the translation. So we need to think on these lines now. So transcription occurs with in the nucleus and case of the proteins which synthesize in which mRNA is copied from the DNA. the nearby DNA, it is got rolled up, and it is going to be used as a biological warfare. So sometimes, then ribosomes, they also going to produce the amino acids from the protein itself. Whereas the amino acids with tRNA can also be going out, and whereas the large subunit is called as the outer cell membrane. Hence, if they do not go or give early explanation to the licensing authority, you will be safe. Then the ribosomes are the reads, interprets the instruction, just like the computer do have several peripherals like the mouse and the speaker and also the other materials like Golgi apparatus and other. Whereas the Golgi apparatus is a membrane bound organelle which is mainly composed of series of flattened and stacked pouches. So inside this cytoplasm, then it is preliminarily responsible for sorting, modifying, packaging, and transportation, or else it is having multiple focus fertility. So here also another cell is given in which we can see that the rough endoplasmic reticulum, whereas the ribosomes are the one which are going to assist here and there. So the tree of entry of the bacteria may not be covered by a thing, and only the way left to us is to approach the high court of the thing. Similarly, the ribosomes are the one which are processing many of these lines, then goes to the Venkatesh, then also the thing. So here it is more and more clear. So here you can see a small day-old baby, looks like a day-old body. Then it is reserved some proteins for its transport. Whereas the Golgi apparatus is also another important structure, and everyone need to be understand this particular subject. Then Golgi apparatus, it is two distinct ends. So, how it is classified as the cis phase of the Golgi apparatus, number one, then the trans phase of Golgi networks, and each different programs are there, and the different type of the Mars, etc., need to be always encouraged. So the functions of the Golgi apparatus, it also sorts, traces, and packages and transportation of proteins and lipid to targeted areas, the cells. And many ways you need to learn this thing and crack the examination. Then mitochondria, a powerhouse of the body. Then with the help of the adenosine triphosphate, a substance which was sent as the top is also going to be a game changer. Then the mitochondria synthesis is very easy. We can go that the cell do contain very less amount and how to settle, etc. So here the outer membrane, if you take a small cross section, that will be there. Some of the cells, especially the Google form, is not going to find your website access, etc. So never try to share it. Then, as the name indicates, it's the powerhouse of the body. Then the they produce the energy from the RER. So, what's an apoptosis? Suppose millions of the cells are being every day they are vanished out, and the controlling center need to be activated about this particular chapter. Then the important functions of the mitochondria are they produce lot of energy, and it's also called as oxidative phosphorylation, means they are going to utilize one adenosine triphosphate. Then the promotes the growth of new cells and cell membrane, whereas the apoptosis is a programmed cell death. Then the cellular respiration is like that. Unlike a glucose moiety, C6H2O6, etc., any moiety will combine with that of the water, then ATP synthesized, CO2 plus CO2 is being synthesized. So, for this reason, the mitochondria are known as the powerhouses of the body cell. Then lysosome, it is, as the name indicates, it lyses different type of the cell that contains enzyme that break down the digest unneeded cellular components. Looks fine. So these are also involved in different processes, and here you can see that we have completed the second chapter, and every day I am sharing the question paper, etc., and please answer them in a proper time within the given domain, and try to finish them without any delay, because the it will close automatically after 24 hours of streaming. And with this, today, for goodbye, and have a nice day. Bye. See you. Thank you.